hear me out. As a society, let's shift our priority away from self-centered actions and normalization of like materialistic culture. Let's shift it towards ending exploitation, ending child exploitation. I can't think of anything more powerful than that. I know. This is a very brave channel that I have here. This is very brave things that I'm talking about for multiple reasons. But I think of it as sort of a pyramid of people that I'm able to help in my life. At the top of the pyramid is people who are like me. People who are just completely isolated because they recognize the evil in the world. They can almost put a name to the evil in the world, and they see it. They see it in front of them, and so they're isolated because of it. They have language to represent it. They know what it looks like. This is people who I believe I can help the most, and these are the people who are like me, who I use the internet to find. And then a little bit below that on the pyramid is people, like, I would say probably the broader sense of people who are being exploited, but also just the broader sense of people in our culture who are just kind of like alone and isolated, which I see infinite amounts of everywhere, especially online. I see like these smaller videos pop up from people who are just isolated and sad, and like in a more general sense. So I can't like comment to it specifically, but just in a more general sense. And then from my perspective, lower on the pyramid is just, like 600 million people in modern day slavery. Honestly, I don't know if that figure is actually accurate. It could be more. It's probably not less, unfortunately, but it is probably more people in modern day slavery. It would be a way to put it. And this is the pyramid conception that I have to kind of say, like, yeah, like shit is on fire right now, and like we need to fucking help the most vulnerable and exploited among us. And it's a very brave thing to say this. I mean, it's not controversial, but it's still brave, because like, what am I gonna do? Sacrifice my comfort to like prioritize protecting children? Like, what the fuck? Like, what do you want from me? So there are people who I can speak to with this video. By the way, I don't know if people in real life are going to watch this. It's going to be crazy if they do. But there's people who I can speak to. There's people who I can get this across to. Recently I'm discovering that we're all at sort of a slightly different level of just consciousness regarding these things. Like, we're just at different levels, and it's not even to say that people lower on those levels are just like more stupid or something. It's just like, we all from my perspective, we recognize abuse and injustice just in slightly different ways, but largely it remains kind of the same, and especially pertaining to, say, child exploitation, which sort of is my focus here in life a lot of the time. So with that being said, like, let's build a new culture, a shared culture of protecting life. I think of it as like it's just like the shared culture that we have of finding people who are in dark places, no matter how far away in the world, and just saying, we live in a developed and, mostly prosperous society, but we see you in darkness, far away, and we will put our resources towards protecting you. It's like saying, hey, like, I see you. Like, it's like being in a city just completely surrounded by the lights, completely bustling. And then you venture away from the city, venture just outside of it. And then you look into the far lands. And like, this is kind of an interesting conception. It's all very symbolic to me as well, which I can get into depth in another time. But in the darkness, there's somebody who's just like fucking forgotten about. And it's like, hey, like, I see you. That's kind of what I try to do. But it's like, hey, like, we have all these smart people in a city, right? Like, when I want to scroll social media, instead, sometimes I just scroll Google Maps, right? And I'm just like, wow, look at all these big cities. It's like, these are the smartest people ever. And they're putting their energy towards just like fucking building a billboard for Doritos or something. Like fuck that shit. Like let's use our talent for something real. You know what I mean? It's just as simple as that. Like, and it's not that simple. There's more of a conversation to be had, unfortunately. But for fuck's sake, can we not build a billboard for Doritos? Can we instead just like maybe focus on like putting your skill, pretty much put that skill of however you built the billboard, just put all your skills towards like prioritizing the most vulnerable and isolated among us. Like, doesn't that make sense? That's almost the gist of the new culture that I just want to encourage us to live by. I know this is brave. This is so brave. This is very brave. Very ambitious, I know. Nonetheless though, lofty and ambitious goals. I mean, there's people like me who just understand the necessity for those. And that's why I'm here trying to bring it into being and encourage it into being in the minds of people who already know that this stuff needs to exist, like this needs to happen. That's what I'm trying to get this across to, mainly. But yeah, and I guess another quick parallel that I want to mention would be in a city, when you look up at night, there's 10 to a couple hundred stars. Okay, and this is a problem we all know about in the background of our mind, but not in the foreground of our mind. The problem of light pollution. However, if you go farther into a rural area, I mean, what I mean is like you know about the problem. It's just in the back of your mind, and like you don't care too much about addressing the problem because it doesn't affect your day-to-day life. But you go out farther into the countryside, of course, you start to see the Milky Way, and then you go even farther, and then you start to see the color of the Milky Way, and then these different like beautiful light phenomenons in the sky that are just so beautiful. It's so amazing, and it's like a sort of parallel, like it's symbolic in a way. And I don't actually have like a specific religion or like spiritual understanding of the universe. I try to root myself in practicality, I guess, but so I don't really have like a spiritual way of looking at this, but nonetheless it's still slightly spiritual. But I just refer to it as like meaningful. And so the meaningful thing being, if you kind of like wander into the darkness a little bit to like see who's left behind, like you'll end up seeing the most beautiful thing in life, which is the Milky Way. I think that's actually really powerful. I'm really happy that I just said that. So, a shared culture of protecting life. So moving on, I was raised where violence was kind of normalized through media, which this is really nitpicky. Like a lot of people aren't really going to like this, but violence was normalized through like movies and stuff. I was fed food from child debt labor, like child labor and like debt bondage labor, like those kinds of things. So I was fed that food. I was fed the rewards that come from abuse. And I was also fed food that come from factory farming and animal torture, right? By the way, everybody does this. You watching, you also do this, right? I don't anymore, thankfully. And this upbringing of having like a good childhood while being fed just like, just like the products of like suffering abroad, that's the best case scenario. That is the best case scenario for just the general amount of people in my country and in the world. That's the best upbringing. Is like you feel good, but other people just like are completely stomped underneath the boot of your existence. And I guess as I'm thinking about this, I don't know much about this actually. I'm not like educated per se about this, but it's like, think of like the term white privilege. This could be what I'm saying right now could be a slight, and I don't, regardless of like color and everything, but what I'm saying right now can be a sort of parallel to how other people say white privilege. And so maybe then you could kind of understand what they're trying to say with that is like, there are people who have a sort of privilege I'm not going to deny that white privilege exists, but I am going to say that I notice this privilege way more than white privilege. Obviously, though, there's exploitation around every fucking corner, abuse around every fucking corner, and that's what I'm trying to tell you here, is that both white privilege, that needs to be heard out. We need to understand that, whatever that is, right? But then we also need to understand this. Do you see? So that's the lucky outcome. It's like fucking being raised with like a normalization of violence, like just a slight subconscious normalization. It's still kind of normalized to me, just like guns in movies and stuff, which is very weird if you think about it. You know, and that's the whole thing, is like you start to think about life and you start to say like, hey, something pervasive, something wrong is going on here. So I didn't get full on trauma. That's right. I did not get full on trauma. Most people have. Like, most people have some shit that happened to them. I started out, I guess, with like indirect trauma. And honestly, I guess I may have some trauma, right? But it's not as bad as most people's, from what I've seen, which is great. But yeah, I may have ended up with just a sort of spread out trauma from multiple things. Since we're talking about child exploitation, I might get into some more details, so trigger warning for that in advance. But, you know, some of the things that kind of like traumatized me were relating to the endless and rampant child exploitation rings and situations and systems of exploitation that occur online. So I saw that over a long period of time. Some of my other content is about that, and I even made a website regarding that called endce.org. endchildexploitation.org. endce.org. Like literally, I fucking care so much about this shit, dude. I want this shit to end. But yeah, I didn't get raped or abused, thankfully. I just had a good bit of like indirect trauma, as I was saying, but and there's a song lyric. Okay. Oh my god. How awkward and like cringeworthy is it to share with somebody else a song lyric? Maybe if you know me in person, you'd more so want to hear that. But like, what the fuck ever, you know? Like I wanna get this shit across, especially in a language that seems familiar to me. Which is obviously why I listen to songs, is because it turns these things into language that I just at my core understand, rather than having to force myself to translate it into just like plain English. Like this video is more so just plain English, but like when I listen to a song, I'm just like, okay, that makes sense of like all the child exploitation in the world, but in like a really symbolic and like beautiful kind of way. Basically, it lights life up. It takes a big old lamp, just like sticks it right in the middle of just like this fucking pit that we have to be very careful of, may I add. Like, we're trying to create a new culture and like be more conscious of like child exploitation and like the worst problems of our time. It's going to eat at you and it's going to kill you. If it doesn't, then like congratulations, you're at like a different level of like awareness and consciousness than I am. I could only hope to be more desensitized in whatever the healthiest way that could be, right? I could only hope to just be more embodied and just like recognize fully how to be selfless and how to get this shit done. So the song is, we were born in the valley of the dead and the wicked. We were born in the shadow of the crimes of our fathers. Blood was our inheritance. No, we did not ask for this. Yeah. Like, this shit gets me emotional. Like, this shit genuinely gets me emotional. Because we were born into this shit. We were born into the... It's not fair. It's not fair. We didn't ask for this. This is like more of the easier to understand type stuff, but you know, I mean, I think you get it, right? It's like, we were born in the valley of the dead and the wicked. And it's just like the generations before us just kind of like left some bullshit for us. And it's like, well, fuck you. Nonetheless, though, we live in the age of action. So shit's gonna start happening. Like we gotta take action. We gotta make shit happen. So again, regardless of who's watching this, could be my family members. Could be my family members watching this. They would not, like, I could only hope for them to finally at last understand, like, just the kind of person who I am. But they even then, I still doubt they would understand, like, fully. But then again, I'm trying to reach, like, people who would understand. People who would, like, see this and they're just like, oh my god, like, I've been feeling the exact same shit. Like, I know exactly what you mean when you say that, like, we were born in the shadow of the crimes of our fathers. Like, I know exactly what you mean. So moving on a little bit. Our culture is so rotten in many different places. We ignore indirect consequences almost entirely as like a median sort of, like, that's like the median consciousness, or just kind of like the average consciousness, I guess. It's just like ignoring indirect consequences fully. Like, we just focus on direct consequences, like how we interact with people, how we drive at a stoplight, those kinds of things, rather than like what we buy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you buy something here, if you buy chocolate here, which is on the US government's official list of goods that basically need to be looked out for, like, you need to be more conscious of them. Among that is like sugar, fabrics, and stuff. But it's just like, if you buy chocolate, like, first of all, it's on that list of like child labor risk, right? Because of how corrupt the world is. But then, you know, you buy that chocolate, you create the demand for a forest to be cut down, a family to be debt bondaged. Like, they're just like, hey, like, fucking, you gotta work for us, like, come on, you know, like, otherwise, like you're in debt to us through some kind of shit that neither you nor I can fully comprehend right now, right? Because we need to learn about it. That's the thing, is like, unless you're gonna fucking learn about it, like, just stop. Like, just stop doing it. Like, it's the safer approach, right? Like, stop buying chocolate. That's what I did. It's like, stop buying chocolate unless it says fair trade certified. Like, I've sacrificed all my favorite snacks because of this, which I don't want praise for that. Really, I want that to be the very least that I do. You know what I mean? It's just like fucking every snack. It's fine. I still eat some snacks. It's just like, do you see what I mean, though? It's like a culture of selflessness, a culture of actual virtue that we're trying to build here. Not trying to be too preachy. I'm trying to connect with people who will understand the urgency and who will also understand my language itself. So we focus on those direct consequences, ignoring the indirect consequences, you know, supporting factory farming, like all the abuse there. It's just, you know, this stuff already probably. But also, our society is not checked and balanced properly. Government does not represent the will of the people. And technology itself, like technology, that whole other area of things, it's just not checked. Like, it's just not checked in the way that it needs to be checked. Like, there needs to be fucking clear guardrails on it. But unfortunately, our society is very unhealthy right now. And so things need to be done. Like action needs to be taken. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, action. Like, let's step to it. You know what I mean? Like, let's get fucking doing it. Everybody has a role. Everybody. I know this to be a fact. Everyone has a role in making this shit happen. But also, people numb pain. They numb the pain with screens and, like, drugs. Like, doing that is, like, commonplace now. I know that could even be, like, an old point to be said, but, you know, that's what I do. Maybe not, like, drugs in the traditional sense, but it's just, like, you know, I just kind of pull out my phone and just, like, my phone is, like, my refuge. You know what I mean? I eat a lot of, like, candy, like, sugar and stuff still. Ethical sugar, right? It's like sourced locally and stuff, but it's still like, you know what I mean? It's still an escape. Like it's an escape. Not sugar as much as, you know, always wanting to watch videos or stuff like that, or just, you know, most people are addicted to like 5 things or more, honestly. But it's really depressing. It's just the constant rampant addiction. And then it's just like it stuffs down like your truest moral virtue that like you could be living up to, but it's just, this is how I feel. Like this is genuinely how I feel. If it's judgmental, let me know. Like if I'm wrong and I'm just being judgmental, let me know. But until then, it's just like people stuff down their conviction with addiction and just like habit and just like, oh, I can't do that, and just excuses and justifications and just poison. But again, I've had a lot of time to ponder these things and recognize them. So fuck, it really makes me feel isolated. Like we said earlier, at the top of the pyramid of people you can help is those isolated people who are like you. You know, that's who I want to find. That's who I want people to understand that I'm trying to find. Oh my God. It's tragic. This is a tragedy. I hope you know. It's a little bit of an act of courage for me to even make this video right now. So yeah, I mean, our culture's just rotten for those reasons. Just fucking rotten. Shit needs to change, my friends. So these are bold criticisms in a couple ways. But I feel like people will largely agree with them. Am I wrong? Let me know. Like, engage with me somehow. You don't even have to comment. I don't want to farm your engagement for like algorithmic metric boosting to like get my content more discoverable. Just reach out somehow. Just like tell me that I'm a piece of shit and like I'm wrong or something. Like I do want feedback, because I don't want to get too stuck in like my own echo chamber of sorts. So, like I've been saying, we have a deep responsibility to turn things around, like flip the ship around, bro. It's actually a unique responsibility that we just as human beings have. It's just to be conscious of the world and like protect things that are vulnerable. Like, is that not, here's a question for you, like, is that not the purpose of human beings? Like, we recognize who is vulnerable across the entire earth. We can quote, widen our circle of compassion to encompass all living things and the whole of nature in its beauty, Albert Einstein, right? Like, we can actually do that. You know, like a pig can't necessarily. You know, like a fish can't exactly do something like that. But like, nonetheless, these creatures feel, and like they have feelings, and like a toddler like has feelings, and like simply put, like these living things that are kind of like lower in intelligence or whatever than us, they need to be protected. Especially children, right? Like, especially children. You know, think about, let's say that you had a good childhood. Think about how beautiful that is. How beyond beautiful that is. A good childhood. There you go. And like solidly and simply put, protect childhood at all costs. Like, I'm asking you, protect childhood at all costs. Do you understand? Because a child can just go do some boring ass shit, and it will instantly, by default, be meaningful and beautiful to them. On the other hand, us adults, we sit at home, we sit at work, and we get done stacks and stacks of shit to do, only then to finally at last go on a short vacation to like Paris or some shit, at which point we're staring at the Eiffel Tower and we're just like, wow, this is awesome. It's not quite as cool as like I thought it would be, but like it's pretty cool. Meanwhile, a kid like filled with like life and shit is just like, is that a fucking stick on the ground? Holy shit. Oh my god. It's a fucking stick on the ground. This could be a sword to slay. By the way, I'm more imaginative than this. I still like I'm very creative and shit. But it's just like, oh my god, this could be a sword to fucking slay dragons. Right? A fucking stick on the ground here at home. The kid doesn't need to go to Paris. Like, you probably don't need to bring your baby, or like your... you probably don't need to bring like your 1-year-old to Disneyland, I guess. You know what I mean? It's just like, that's a side rant, of course. But again, we have a unique responsibility as humans to make sure that this shit happens. This should be the greatest honor. This should be the greatest societal thing that is rewarded, is the protection of life through just like genuine virtue. Like let's live strongly by genuine virtue again. Like let's use the word virtue again. Like, let's say, yeah, I live by virtues and like morals and like ethics. Ethics and morals, those are more boring words. I'm still trying to find like an exciting word for it. Fucking Jesus. But yeah, man, like let's live accountably with one another, like in transparency and accountability, and just like live by virtues, like strong virtues, like without excuses, and like being sad and depressed. And I mean, obviously we're sad and depressed, but I feel like a lot of it is because we don't have a shared culture, a beautiful culture that is focused on like beauty. I don't know. Maybe we need to go into more local groups and then, you know, just try to give something to the world. More like-minded groups. Maybe we need to just find people where we are. I don't entirely know, right? But I just need you, just go with me. Just go with me on this journey. So here's what we can do. So moving on. Here's what we can do about this. It's not everything, but it's a lot. Here's what we can do. Making sacrifices in day-to-day life to minimize harm and maximize awareness. Our comforts are very often upheld by the exploitation of humans, the earth, and animals somewhere else. Not here, but somewhere else. Also, let's see if we can learn stuff about the world and figure out what to do. So the established and well-known teachings are easy, just like stuff that we already know. Like, whatever you can... like, you can search up online just something to help the world in whatever area that you want to, and then it'll be there. These are like the widely understood teachings. But maybe there's something we're missing as a society. And so let's just think about that. Like, more specifically, maybe there's something that you a person who truly cares about all of this, maybe there's something you can offer. Maybe there's a great gift that you can offer that we need in this world. And this is why I truly believe with all my heart that every last person, without exception, has an important and crucial role to play in this war against exploitation. And I know this because, well, every insignificant action matters, regardless of, I mean, we've all gaslit ourselves into thinking that insignificant actions do not matter. Because, like, what? It's just a small action. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like you can write a letter to your representative, and like if it doesn't work, like it's fine. Like, but then you just don't end up even doing that, and it's just no. Like, fuck that shit. Like, every insignificant action matters, especially for kids. Everything matters. I know this because I was a kid once, and a bunch of random little shit mattered. Like, random fucking insignificant micro events stuck around in my memory for decades after. Okay? So do you understand? So yeah, this will require embracing some nuance, engaging in dialectic-based communication. Dialectic is just like an alternative to arguments where you're just like, oh, well, you're a person who has context. Give me some of your context. Like, I want your context so that we can understand why the fuck there's so much divide amongst us peoples, and like what we can actually actionably do about it. So that's kind of what that is. Also, being careful of demographic salesmen. You know, someone who's like, Jews are bad, or Christians are bad, or the elites are kind of the real ones causing the harm. I used to be kind of that way too, but you know, if we start having demographic salesmen just kind of like selling us different groups of people who may be the bad guys, it's very risky. I'm not going to say that it's wrong. Like, I don't, like, listen, right? You ain't going to hear this anywhere else, but if the Jews really are bad, okay, show me. Show me how they're the ones, show me how they're the bad guys, right? You see what I mean? So let's just have a conversation about it. I don't know who's watching this video, but I do know some people who are anti-Jewish. A lot of people, in fact, and I see it a lot online, strangely. But, damn, shit's crazy, man. I want to fight I want to fight the enemy in life, whoever it is, right? So far, I think it's just Satan, right? Like a conceptualization of evil, because I believe the evil kind of lives in the hearts of people. Maybe it's just like a lower consciousness of people. I don't know, right? Let's have a conversation about it. Let's figure it the fuck out. But we also have to be careful of like thought terminating cliches. That's when I say to someone like, hey, you can accomplish your dreams. You can build a house and you can be independent from the government. Like, you have to, because like the government isn't here to control us. They're here to serve us. That's how society works. And then the other person on the other side is just like, no, it costs $5 million. I could never do it. So that's a thought terminating cliche from my perspective. But then we have tons of other things. But also, moving on for what we can actually do to solve these problems and live by this new culture, going out into the world and doing truly wise and truly effective work. And beyond that, picking our lane of work. So I have a couple lanes myself. I feel like my role is to kind of live minimalistically in sort of a village with friends, but then have a section of outward work that I put into the world through things like this video, things like my website, which I've mentioned, those kinds of things. That sort of vaguely represents my lane, or just kind of my general method in the world. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm trying to be too productive. I don't want to try to be too productive and try to be too smart. That's not going to get me too far. So going out in the world, finding like what we can do. I don't want to preach too much. It sucks to preach. Because like, what the fuck am I doing here? You know what I mean? It's like, you already know this shit. Like, you're fucking smart. I hope. But also just living by these values we hold in our hearts daily and strictly, I'd argue that we should live by our values in a pure kind of way, rather than just kind of like vaguely hold on to them and just hope that something else at a deeper level saves us. Because, if you're like me, you don't have much evidence that there's something like a God that can just kind of make everything right. So you'd want to play it safe. So I'm not denying God. I'm just saying I want to play it safe. Like, I want to have a more strict sense of morals. And I want to be empowered in doing that. So yeah, I mean, that's that. Those are the methods. I'm preaching these values and giving advice. I know how fucking stupid that is. But my point is more so that I want us to empower each other to be held to real moral standards, instead of like whatever shared compliant shit that we have going on in current society. I want us to get fucking going on this. I want to get the ball rolling. So last and perhaps most importantly, though, seeing if we can unite around this new way of life. There has to be like-minded people out there. There has to be, period. We have the internet. It's the best tool ever for finding people. That's how I found all my best friends. So, like, it's legitimately how I found all my best friends. So please take notes or something, because I can't do this alone. And I believe something new is ready for us. A sort of reform, a sort of parallel system. Something good, something to look up to. Something that I can look up to. And, yeah, I mean, I know that there's people who share this sentiment. That's what I'm trying to reach. Again, I have to reiterate that to myself because obviously there's so many things, so many groups of people that just would want to put me down and say that I can't do this, but nonetheless, I can do this. Of course, I have to. So yeah, there's a couple cultures that I'm trying to look into that kind of embody what I believe in. There's like the Ubuntu culture, which is like their quote is "I am because we are." It's really nice. It's just like I'm only good because I help you and you help me, and it's just like we all help. Like it's kind of cliche, but then there's another culture, and their whole thing is like every choice that they do should consider the impact it would have on 7 generations of people down the line. I'm sure you've heard of that one. But then there's also like just light pollution culture itself. It's just we need to preserve the most beautiful thing on Earth, which is just the Milky Way and the sky. I mean, from my perspective, the sky is the most beautiful thing on Earth for many different reasons. We need to just protect beauty as a whole. That's like part of our new culture. And yeah. Shit, man. This is rough. It's rough having to just be isolated regarding all these things for so long, and I'm sure I'll find people. I'll keep continuing. So my position, right? In my life so far, I truly believe that I've seen the difference between good and evil. I've seen a few like microcultures that I love, and these cultures have kind of like met my needs as a person, but I've also found like little microcultures that are just poison to my soul. The good cultures though, I've seen they're kind of decentralized and small. Just kind of nice. It's like that's also a big thing. It's just like decentralization maybe, but also fitting into a wider picture and still, being fully accountable within our decentralized spaces. And again, living by virtues. But I think my life purpose is to be co-creating the forming of a very strong and vibrant microculture. It's an animal, sorry. And this culture of virtue would live through our local communities and our spirits. A culture of shared values, striving to see the harms in our world and then withdraw from them. A culture of radical searching, just looking for our friends who are living in darkness, like I said. Just like, I will look for you. Just saying that declaration. So this is what I do every day. This is what I'm trying to do. I want people to empower me in this, people who share my vision. And let's connect. Let's connect somehow. You can ask me anything. You can hold me accountable. You can email me. Whatever you want to do to connect. Let's connect. Maybe criticize each other. Let's have some good conversations. That's all I wanted to say in this video. So, thank you for watching this, and so long.